Welcome to the Ryan Frank Podcast. Ryan is a family man, first and foremost, but he's also a pastor, publisher, and serial entrepreneur. This podcast will help you think, work, and create like never before.
Welcome to the Ryan Frank Podcast. It is Ryan Frank, and I'm so grateful that you've tuned in today. Thank you for all of the great feedback, the messages that I've received, the emails that I've received about the updated Ryan Frank Podcast. If you're just randomly catching this episode of the podcast, a few episodes back, we did a relaunch of the Ryan Frank Podcast. The podcast has been around for several years. It's looked different over the years, but a few years back, we not only created a new set, as you can see if you're watching the YouTube version of the website, but we are going at the podcast with a new approach where every week I'm interviewing a thought leader in both the ministry and marketplace with the intent of helping you think, work, and create like never before. That's what I want for you. And so thank you so much for your feedback. I would be so grateful if you would send me a text and let me know what you think about the new format of the podcast. You can text me at 765-441-4598. I would love to hear from you. One more time, that's 765-441-4598. We have a great lineup for 2023. We're going to be interviewing some wonderful, wonderful people that I know you are going to love. Today, I had the opportunity to sit down with Ricardo Miller. Ricardo Miller has been in children's ministry full-time for over 25 years. I remember as a young children's pastor connecting with Ricardo Miller and learning from him. He has been on the main stage at the Kids Matter Conference. We've been able to do a lot of online events together over the years. And at this season in Ricardo's life, he is really focusing on helping people live effectively. How can you live an effective, joyful, meaningful life at home, at work, or wherever your journey takes you? And so what we're going to talk about today is how do you win at life? You know, we're going through life anyway. Why not just choose to have a winning mindset? Why not put some practices into your life to help you win every day? I'm telling you what, this is a great, great conversation. I think you're going to find a lot of value for what you do at home as well as what you do at work, whatever your work during the week looks like. So with all that being said, thanks again for tuning in. Here is my interview with Ricardo Miller. Ricardo, welcome to the podcast. Great to see you.
Ryan, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about this.
Hey, well, thank you. And you got to start by, if you've not met Ricardo Miller, I didn't say in the introduction, but your accent. Tell us where you're from, Ricardo.
Well, I was born and raised in Nassau, Bahamas. Yes, I'm an island boy.
You're an island boy, but you're not in the now you're living in Texas. Am I thinking right? Are you in Texas?
You are correct. I've been in Texas now from the year 2000, and so
gotcha.
I'm blown away by the fact that, you know, when I'm in the Bahamas, they say you've totally lost your accent, and then here in the States, they say no, you haven't.
You've got the accent. Exactly. Yeah. Ricardo's a dear friend. Thanks for being with us. Ricardo, I want to talk today about, you know, one thing that you are passionate about. If anybody follows Ricardo on social media, if you've heard him speak, if you've read his books, he is passionate about living effectively. It's like you've got one life here on this earth. Of course, we know we're going to live forever somewhere, but here on this earth, we've got one life. We need to make it matter, don't we, Ricardo?
Most certainly. Most certainly.
And you talk about, and I'm holding in my hand your book, Effective Living. And you talk about creating a life that you don't need to take a vacation from. We talk, what do you mean by that? Creating a life you don't need to take a vacation from?
You know, Ryan, man, once again, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this podcast today.
Yes.
I over the years, I've thought about how there are so many different layers of what people call life. And there are people who would have said, if I could just get my degree, if I can just marry that girl. Oh, after I accepted the Lord, oh my goodness, after I have had my first child, oh, if I could have that rental property. And you find that life has so many wish I had that some people are always in pursuit. But the question is, what is it that is really a list of things that can be considered an amazing life? And I coined them in 5 things, Ryan. And I say a life where you don't need to take a vacation from is where you're bringing 5 things together. 5 things. That's faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. It's like learning how to bring these 5 into your life to be intentional to ensure that when you look at your days, weeks, months, or years, you could say, I am actually in love with the life I've created over time with the help of God.
Mm-hmm. Ricardo, what inspired you to really help people understand this message? Was it something you personally experienced? Is it just over the course of time working with people, you recognized a need?
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
A good friend of mine's, he is a Fortune 500 corporate president, and we have these once a month breakfasts, and we talk about our lives and we challenge each other. And he said to me about 4 years ago, he said, man, you should teach that stuff. He said, because you're so intentional about putting these pieces together, which actually over time has created your life. And so I coined it management. It's self-management, which actually is something all of us should be doing. And most people aren't doing it. Most people are responding to the squeaky wheel that's in their life. It's not until my body says it's needed its attention, not until my marriage is crying for attention, not until my children is somewhat needing attention. And so it was this passion and commitment to bring balance first, Ryan, in my life. It was how can I bring balance? Because I love the Lord. And then I saw that after I still loved the Lord, I was broke. And I was like, oh my Lord, I need some money. And then I said, I want some money. And I realized I didn't want to do life alone. And so I wanted a community. And I got the community and I realized I'm getting older. This body of mine is the vehicle God is going to use to fulfill my assignment. Yes. And then I realized I could be in the gym every day, but how much joy am I bringing to my life and those around me? And I figured, you know what? The journey is better if you're making it fun. And so I started to think about faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun, and then managing my life that way. And then that's when after my friend suggested, you need to start teaching that. And that's when I pushed towards the children's ministers that I was coaching over the years. I encouraged them to say, hey, make sure you're not one-centered, but you're balanced in your approach to living.
You ever find, Ricardo, as you teach, I mean, are there a mindset of people out there? Are there a group of people with a mindset that, you know what, but being a Christian, it's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be, I don't know if I should have a life that I shouldn't ever want to take a vacation from. I don't know. Do you is there much resistance there? Or do you think most of the Christian community recognizes like, yeah, you know what, life should be a little more satisfying? And talk through that with us.
It's amazing you said that, because a few years ago, I was out taking a jog, and a guy of mine, strong, good Christian brother, he called me up, and I had my iPads in my ears and I'm running, and he said to me, hey, what are you doing, Ricardo? How are you doing? I said, man, I am doing great. He said, man, that great came out strong. And I said, because I'm really doing great. He says, how great is it? I'm talking about, I say, heaven on earth kind of great. And he says, don't you think heaven is set aside for us in the afterlife, not in this life? And I kept running. I said, brother, I'm enjoying life to the fullest. And he says, well, a lot of people are going through. And I said, yeah, I totally understand that. He said, how do you feel about that? I said, well, I'm taking a nice run and I'm meditating and reflecting on what God is going to have for me to pour into the group that I'm teaching tonight. And so, bro, I'm just blessed. And he says, well, I think you're a little off-centered, and I think you need to get less out of self and more into people. And he tried to rebuke me. And I thought about what he said for a while, but I didn't embrace it because life is going to throw storms all of our ways. There is no exemption from going through. You're going to go through. But it's not the fact that I haven't gone through or I'm not going through. It's my interpretation of how I'm dealing with going through. Every day there is something, but it's what I give my attention to. I use it like this. I saw this quote years ago that says, life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you respond. And so it's my response to life. And so for those people who feel as though I should be introducing myself with a Debbie Downer story and there's always a sad situation, the truth is I am blessed beyond my wildest imagination. And so no, I don't subscribe to the whole idea of looking at the glass half empty approach when it comes to the world. I'm looking at every great opportunity presented in a minute, in a second, within a day. And so there will be people, Ryan, who they've been built, they've been conditioned, they've been programmed over time to not see the good in this world. And the Bible tells us this. It says, whatsoever a man thinketh, as a man thinketh, so is he.
Yes.
And so I choose to think on whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are good report. I'm all positive. And I have some people who hate on me for that, but that's okay.
Well, that's okay. And don't you think a lot of it too is, Ricardo, I appreciate that about you. It's like when you're on an airplane and they say, in case of an emergency, you're going to put the mask on yourself first before helping those around you. It's like, if you don't take care of yourself, first of all, nobody else is going to, right? You've got to take care of yourself. But I'm not going to be able to help people. I'm not going to be able to help my kids at home if I'm not around for them. I'm not going to be able to help people in my church if I'm not there. I'm the only me that they have. I've got to make that a priority. Agree?
I totally agree. And that's the reason why I encourage leaders, take care of you and don't misplace the priority chain of you not being on the list of priorities.
Yes, exactly. Now, Ricardo, in the book, you start off by saying there's one big question. And it really pulled me. I thought it was good. And that one big question is, what is your why? Will you unpack that a little bit? Why is that the one big question?
Because everything has a why. And the late Dr. Miles Monroe said it like this. He said, where purpose is unknown, abuse is inevitable. Well, why is actually purpose. It's the reason for. And failing to know the why actually introduced the opportunity to abuse something. And so there are a lot of people who have been given days but don't know why, been given opportunities but don't know why, have been given the support that they should have to go to the next level but don't know why. And failing to embrace the why causes you to abuse oftentimes the situation, the person, or the thing. And so I believe that when you understand the fact of why you've been given a day, you'll get up in the morning saying, this is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it because I'm still in the game, Ryan. In spite of what I went through yesterday, what I went through last month, last year, I'm still in the game. And so I'm still here. Why am I still here? Well, I'm a difference maker. I'm a leader. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a friend. I'm a businessman. And those are some of my engagement in life that helps me to make a deposit. And I'm going to make the best deposit for why I believe I exist. And so when people, Miles Monroe said another statement that goes like this. He says, the greatest tragedy in life is not death, but to live without a reason. To live without your why. Yeah. To live without your why. When your why is clearly defined, it helps you to identify which books you need to read, who needs to be your friends, what time you need to get up in the morning, how you spend your money. You don't spend your money loosely when you know why you have money. You don't deal with people any kind of way when you understand why.
Where does it start, Ricardo? I love that. And you're 100% spot on. What would you say to maybe a 17, 18-year-old kid? It's like, I really want to discover my why. Or maybe even a 50-year-old that says, boy, I feel like I'm doing a lot, but do I really know my why? How do you identify your why? I mean, does it come from a personal walk with the Lord? Is it going into the scripture? What's a starting point?
A very practical, easy way of identifying your why is to move more towards the things that you naturally do. I tell people your why brings you into a situation and allows you to be like a fish in water. It's your natural flow. Ryan, there is something you do naturally that frustrates other people.
That's true.
There are a lot of things other people do naturally that frustrates you. Your why or your purpose is more in line with what you naturally do, what you naturally do. Ryan, a few months back, I had the privilege of doing 10 speaking session in 24 hours.
No.
10 sessions.
Oh my word.
I'm talking 10 45-minute sessions. My assistant at the time, she says, I said, if they will work with this time, and this was that virtual time, and everybody was virtual. And I said, if they would honor the 45 minutes at this time, we'll do it. And she said, well, somebody else wants that day. I said, if they would honor the time, because of it being virtual, I was able, and I'm talking about 3 or 4 countries was included in those virtual opportunities. And I had people who came by in my little small break between the session and said, I can't believe you're doing that. And I said, I can't believe you play basketball that long. I can't believe you be in the kitchen that long. I can't believe that you watch TV that long. Everybody has something that they can do that others can do that is natural to you. What I would say to that young 17-year-old or that 50-year-old, lean more towards what you're naturally capable of doing and embrace the fact that you can actually make a living there if you would just get creative and become real good. I tell people, be so good at the thing that you naturally do that you can't be ignored.
Ricardo, that's so good. I think a lot of times, don't you think we let we overthink things and we make a mountain out of a molehill. And you're right. I think look at what kind of natural talents and abilities has God given you? What interests do you have already? Don't overthink it. That's when we get ourselves in trouble.
Yep, it sure does. And the truth is, here's the deal. We study so much of other people that we fail to realize I should study you to see how you embrace you so that I can learn to embrace me. I don't study you to be you. I study you to see how you have learned how to be you. And then say, if Ryan could be genuinely him, guess what? I can be me too. And whoever is called to me will pull on me for my natural gifting.
How do you, Ricardo, in the book, you talk a lot about success. I mean, it's on the front, it's on the back cover. How does Ricardo Miller define success?
My definition of success is nothing missing, lacking, or broken. It's you coming in appreciation for accepting where you are holistically, knowing that, watch this, you woke up with determination, you went back to bed with satisfaction, with the idea, I'm on a journey and my life is looking more like what I want it to be. And I keep using the I because success differs to everybody. And I may not have acquired all that my brother has acquired or my best friend has acquired, but I could be just as successful as them or even more because I have learned how to embrace life with all that what I believe life is about, which is bringing it all together. And so it's having all, nothing missing, lacking, or broken. And whatever that is, that's peace of mind. That is joy for each day. That is being able to appreciate your physical state, your financial position, that emotional position, that spiritual position. It is living in harmony with the Creator. I think that's success. So it's good. Not the car you drive. It's not the size house you have. It's not how much money is in the bank. It's not how many people know your name. It's how much you are in one with the Creator and you are able to get up in the morning and smell the roses and appreciate the fact that, I like where I am. I think that's success.
Now that seems like something I think everybody listening would be like, thumbs up. Yes, 100%. Yet, we don't always see it in our lives. And why do you think that, like, if you were going to speak to these ministries, especially the ministry leaders, a lot of people watching and listening to this, you're leading in the church. what are some roadblocks that get in the way? I mean, why don't we always see that in our lives?
I think we don't see it a lot because of comparison. I think comparison is a demon. I think comparison brings a level of frustration in our lives to the degree, Ryan, that even when you don't hear someone say it, you will oftentimes, if they'll be honest, they'll tell you they've said it. If they've not verbally said it, they've said it to themselves, and that is, oh my goodness, I don't have a nice car as he does. My book doesn't look as good as I have not. That's and it's true. All of this stuff is like, you know, they come and visit your house and they're like, well, I think I need to move because if Ryan lives that nice and if Ricardo drives that good and it's all of this. And I think we lose out on the power of embracing the difference that we all bring to the planet. And so I think the challenge is comparison at its very core. So I've been teaching people not to live outside, live inside. Find you. And that takes work, Ryan. It takes work. And where I'm saying you could appreciate someone who's 10 times bigger than you in the world's view of so-called big and still be able to be in love with you. And you can appreciate the fact that you're a one-man show, a five-man show, a 200-man show. Whatever it is, you are where you are by the grace of God, and you're appreciative of who you are and where you've gotten so far.
100% agree. And I think a lot of times it's way too easy, especially with social media and so on, to compare my kids to your kids, compare my church to your church.
Sure.
But boy, it's a deadly trap, isn't it? And so you've got to get to the point where you are, which a lot of that might even be driven by insecurity. I don't know what you think, but you know, if I really am secure in, hey, I understand who I am and how God wired me and where God has positioned me. I understand my strengths, my weaknesses. All of a sudden, I mean, I still am going to be tempted from time to time, but that comparison game, it seems to not be quite as prevalent.
Man, listen, it is such a major issue, and I struggle with it for years. I still struggle with it. And so, you know, and we live in a world that is extremely judgmental.
We do.
And we live in a world that an opinion, everybody has an opinion, right? Yeah. Everybody has an opinion, and those opinion doesn't always align itself up with yours. And so we want to be people pleasers to a degree where we like people to like us, and we don't want people to disagree with us, and we want to coexist with a lot of people. And sometimes the people who we would want to coexist with oftentimes could be disagreeing with our view. And it's a conflict, and some people don't know how to agree to disagree and coexist with people who don't agree fully with you.
Exactly.
That's a struggle for a lot of people, but I feel as though more and more I'm coming into learning that effective living is you being okay with you, knowing that your position is more in line with the will of God, and your Holy Spirit guided sense of peace and contentment and appreciation of you accepting the truth on a daily basis.
So good. Ricardo, let's shift gears just a little bit. In the book, you write about life-work balance. And I think any leader, you know, struggles with this to one degree or another, whether you work in the marketplace or whether you work in a ministry. You know, how do you, I mean, I'd like to ask you, do you think it's possible, speak to pastors and ministry leaders, is it possible to have a work life or a work family balance? Is it, what's your thought on that?
I think it is possible, but I think it's two words we hear a lot, but we don't attribute these words to ourselves. What are those two words? Leadership and management. Leadership and I have to lead me better. I have to manage me better. Leading me moves me forward. Managing me sustains me. Management sustains, leadership moves forward. So I want to be progressive with my kids, and I want to be progressive and enriched with my marriage. And I want to have ministry that is moving in the right direction, that we could say we're growing and glowing in all things. But it demands me to lead me well And oh man, listen, I love to bench watch TV sometimes. I love to
Yep.
bench watch Netflix. I mean, listen, I love Oreo cookies. You bring me a whole pack, I'll just sit down there and eat it. I mean, I love ice cream. I can sit on my porch for 2 days and just listen to music. But I have to remind myself of my why. And I understand that days are expensive. And that if I don't pay attention, I can lose a day, week, and month. And I find it to be that my time is valuable. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, Ryan. Lately, I've been reflecting on the fact that I'm 47, I'm moving closer to 50, and I'm thinking, I don't know when I'm going to leave this world, but I want to really make sure that when I leave, it would have been said in my spirit, and God would look down and says, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant." But I could say it is finished and I've done my part. Yeah. And so I'm constantly reminded that I could have it all. There are people that you can't have it all. Well, if we can have a man on the moon, right? If we can build a city in the desert called Las Vegas, if we can they're creating islands, Ryan. Why can't I use all of that creativity and says, okay, how can I make sure that within my 168 hours within a week, that I make sure that, like juggling, Ryan, like when you throw up those different balls, it's not trying to touch all the balls at once. It's just making sure you touch each one at its appropriate time. That's really what balance is. It's not that I'm going to give my children all of my time. That would not be balance, or my wife all of my time, or my career, or I need to touch it all. And so that's what I try to do. I manage myself within the 168 hours to say, how can I touch my son, my daughter? How can I touch you know what I'm saying?
Yes. I think so much of it does come back to time management and life management. And Ricardo, you've got a lot going on. I mean, you're writing books, you're coaching church leaders, you're coaching business leaders. How do you manage your time? Let's talk about that for a minute. I mean, are there some tools, some habits that you put in place to manage your time so that you do appropriately spend time with your family and your job and talk to us about time management.
I know this doesn't work for everybody, but it really does work for me. I've been doing it for now probably 20 plus years. I love what to do. I believe in a daily to-do list.
Yes.
I believe in a daily to-do list. Now, here's the deal. I push it this crazy, Ryan, and I'm a real practical guy. Okay. I believe in a to-do list to the point where every day my wife will tell me, where's your to-do list, right? And I have 10 things on my to-do list. Okay. 10 things. Okay. And I would organize those things in regards to importance. And oftentimes I don't get the most important, which I often try to, but I'm a big advocate for a to-do list. And then what I've done, Ryan, is calculate the whole idea that if 168 hours within a week, 7 days a week, if I'm doing 10 things with every day, Ryan, 10 things, I mean, 10 little things, but be it as it may, it's 10 things.
Yes.
In the week, I would have done more than most people who didn't even write a list down. Most people are, I only did 5, 7, 10, 12 things. I've done more than, I've done some 70 things. And if I did that all year long, I'm chipping away and I'm making progress. And so on that to-do list I'll schedule out my to-do list from it's daily, it's weekly, and it's monthly. Okay. And within that, my son is 20 years old. I have scheduled in there to have breakfast with him twice a month on a Saturday morning. We sit down and talk about whatever he wants to talk about. Yes. On that to-do list, I have date nights with my wife. I have books that I have to read. I have blogs I have to write. And so I have work hours. And so it's just spreading it out. I put that all under that management category, right?
Do you every day literally write a list? Like, is it on a Post-it note? Is it a note on your phone? What's that look like?
It's a note on my phone, man. I love my little to-do list. I put it on my phone. I put it in notes. And then I use a platform called Dapsada to manage all of my different responsibilities. And it has what they call tasks. And it schedules every 10 minutes. It gives me a notification that you have to do this next.
Really?
And so one of the things I've been trying to do monthly is also audit my time. Look back and say, where did I waste time? And what you would notice is if you look back over 7 days, you'll realize, okay, I spend more time there than I need to. And then last but not least, I started to pay attention to what do I need to outsource? What do I need to delegate? What is it that I never need to do again? And then what do I need to just simply give someone else the opportunity to do for me?
Have you ever read the little booklet, The Tyranny of the Urgent?
I have not. I need to.
Sometime, next time you're on Amazon, and any of you that are watching or listening, it's like a $5 pamphlet. It's like a 45-minute read.
Wow.
Charles Hummel. And he talks about how every day and every hour we're choosing between the urgent things or the critical things that really, really matter. And we live in this tyranny of the urgent, where we can spend a lot of our time doing the stuff that appears to be urgent, but then we really aren't doing those important things that move our life forward and move our ministries and our businesses forward. And what prompted me to think about that, Ricardo, was he talks about taking a period of several days, or maybe he says a week or two, and literally log, like in 15 or 30-minute blocks, like, what did I do? And he said, when you look back after a week or two, you're going to realize, dang, I did not realize I spent that much time on YouTube or Facebook or me talking to this person. You identify those time wasters so that you can spend time on those critical things. But you have to be intentional about it, don't you? When you think about time management, life management, whether you take notes on your phone or whether you use an app or whether you use a scratch piece of paper, you just got to be intentional.
You have to be intentional, even after you've accepted the tool that you say you're going to use, be it a notebook, a calendar, or an app. You have to discipline yourself to comply and utilize the tool. And let me tell you something: if you've lived for a long time not being managed well, it'll become the fight of your life.
Ricardo, I have a couple more questions, and then we'll end with the two questions I always like to end on. What would you say to an 18-year-old that's listening that wants to do what they want, when they want, with whom they want, and as much as they want, which is something you talk about in the book, having that kind of life that, you're able to do what you really feel God wants you to do, and you've got the time to do it. And an 18-year-old, then I'm going to ask you the same thing. What would you say to a 55 or 60-year-old? Is it too late for them? But let's start with the 18-year-old. What would you say to them? What's a word of advice?
For the 18-year-old, understand that position is a position everybody wants, but that position only comes through healthy management. Because to be able to do that, you have to make sure that it is at the highest level of being responsible. When you want, what you want, how you want, with whom you want, as much as you want, only comes when you have learned how to become a part of the 1% for the most part.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
It's a higher level of living. It's not reckless living. It's not being spoiled even. It's being able to know, I've chosen to be here with Ryan. I've chosen to talk at this time. I've chosen, and I watch this. I choose to. I don't have to. More of my life is centered around I choose to. I don't have to. So for you being 18 years old, understand you may not actually have put in enough time to have any of that be your choice yet, because there is a lot of work that one has to put in order for one to be able to pull that off.
Yeah, that's a good point. What would you say to a 55, 60-year-old? Is it too late?
For a 50 to 65-year-old, you may have to decrease in order for you to increase. And what do I mean by decrease to increase? You may have to realize, Apostle Paul said this. He said, all things are permissible to me, but not all things are beneficial. You may have to downsize in order for you to have liberty to now manage your finances better, not be so obligated to contracts, not be so now you can choose to get up when you want, you can go where you want, you can be with who you want, you can be as long as you want, because you have brought your life back to a manageable state. A lot of people have acquired a lot in life, but a lot of people still don't own their life because of contracts. If the Lord were to say, shut it down for 30 days, most people will say, I can't. I can't. I got too much going on. And so to be able to do that at 55, it's being able to make sure that all that you've done hasn't overtaken you to the point where you're now a slave to what you have done. You want to be free enough to be able to say, you know what? I have constructed my life in a way where if I need to take a week or two to be with my grandkids, I can do that. If I really need to take some time and go on a sabbatical for 30 days, I can do that. I've constructed myself. And that's really what that is around. It's about building yourself up even after you've hit a certain age to ensure that you can make the decisions of being who you want to be with, when you want to be with them, as long as you want to be doing the incredible things you want to do, as long as they're responsible and respectable to humanity.
If you've enjoyed this conversation, you need to get your hands on Ricardo's book, Effective Living. This is such good. Ricardo, God has given you a great gift to help the church and to help people to think different, to think bigger. I like to end the podcast by asking two questions, Ricardo. One, what's something that God's teaching you or showing you right now? And then what's something big that you're working on right now? So would you start? Is there something that God's been showing you, teaching you, reminding you of these days?
Yeah, the biggest lesson, Ryan, and it really centers around mental health and depression. And I spoke with my son, and he struggles a little bit with depression. And I had the first time, in the beginning of this year, I had a panic attack for the very first time. Never had one. I thought, what in the world is going on with me? And it wasn't until then I started to study and started to pray and started to realize that sickness within the mind is a real thing. And that oftentimes we see people looking good on the outside, but don't realize there's a battle beyond what we see on the natural. And so that for me has been, Lord, where am I at in my mind and in my head? And then those who I love, being sensitive to know that my wife could be struggling and going through a mental challenge, not just so much physical, or my children. And so that's been something the Lord's been working with me with. And I love what I do. And it seems like I do it effortlessly. And it can make me look like a jerk sometimes, Ryan, because some people think I'm doing it so easily, but it doesn't mean I don't have deficiencies. My deficiency is just different. Yes. And I have to remember that I can't speak so strong to the point that makes me look like Superman, and everybody feels as though I don't really know how to deal with them. So that's what the Lord's dealing with me with, and it's more mental for me.
And I think for all of us, don't you think, if there's something that the church that we should be talking about, maybe we don't talk about it enough, is, mental health, and just all of us. These kids, I think we all deal with it in one level or another, but thanks for being vulnerable and sharing that. Ricardo, what's something big that you're working on right now? I always love to ask leaders this question. What's something big you're working on?
Man, I'm moving towards being more of an entrepreneur this season. I have a couple business venture on the back side of things as I move toward 50. Just started a new LLC business and have another business rolling out next year. It's a new day for me. I've done 25 years of children's ministry, full-time children's ministry, and now to go over to business and still be in ministry. I'm still on staff as the operation pastor at my church in Dallas, but business is a big thing for me right now, and to be able to put that under my belt as a considered area where I feel as though I've found to be successful in that realm as well, is hopefully is going to be my testimony in the months and years to come.
I love it. It's going to be fun to follow you. Give Ricardo a follow on social media, get his books. Ricardo, thank you so much for joining me on the Ryan Frank podcast. You're an inspiration to me. By the way, we're both 47. What month is your birthday?
October 11th. When's yours?
August 3rd. So we're close, baby. Yep. I just got a month or two on you. Yep.
Yes.
Ricardo, thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Ryan.
This episode of the Ryan Frank podcast has ended, but be sure to subscribe for more conversations to help you stay on the leading edge. And if you like what you've heard, please rate this podcast with 5 stars. Thanks so much, and we will talk to you next time.